Hey everybody, welcome to From Struggle to Strength, where we explore personal journeys of resilience and transformation. I'm your host, Rob Cooper. As a veteran and someone who continues to navigate my own personal development, I've learned the importance of sharing the stories and the power of a recovery community. In each episode, I will be sitting down with inspiring guests who have faced their own battles only to emerge stronger. We'll dive deep into conversations about the struggles we face, the steps we take in recovery, how we can ultimately find strength in our most challenging moments. My own journey from military service to personal crisis and eventually to founding Zero Hour Life Center has taught me that nobody should have to face their darkest hours alone. This podcast is a platform for voices that uplift, experiences that empower, and stories that resonate with all of us. Join us as we listen, learn, and grow together from struggle to strength. You're not alone in your journey, and each story shared here is a reminder of that enduring truth. Without further ado, welcome to this edition of the Struggle to Strength podcast. The first guest, you're like my mentor, Mr. Miyagi, and I'm Daniel's son. So
Wax on, wax off.
right. But hey, this is the Robcast, and it's a podcast talking about from struggle to strength. And I work for Zero Hour Life Center, CEO, and our vision at Zero Hour Life Center is to really help people sustain long-term recovery and go into our communities and build up the recovery efforts in the community. 3 pillars we work off of: educate, empower, and advocate. So, and doing this podcast, we can reach more people. We can touch, we can talk, we can let people listen to 2 people having a great dialogue. And so it's an honor to have you here as our first guest.
It's good me to be here.
Yes. So share a little bit about what you're doing now and what you're doing at Mr. WestCare and all that good stuff y'all got going on and your primary goals at WestCare.
Sure. Well, it's really pretty wild to be talking to you and doing this, because I was trying to think about how I actually, like, I knew I met you when I was at the centers, but I don't remember if it was you showing up at like a task force meeting or how we met the first time, or if you guys just showed up. But I'm sure we'll figure it out, and maybe you remember. So what am I doing now? I am first and foremost still a person in long-term recovery. None of this would have happened if I didn't keep that a priority for myself. It has absolutely been wild, and yes, there has been challenges and triumphs throughout, but this year will be 35 years in November, and I do plan on making it to then, but I'll talk to you more about 35 years when I get to November. So it's been 34 and change. And what I'm doing now, Rob, is I moved from Ocala back in 2016, where I met you. I moved from Ocala, where I was working for the centers, left the centers when they went through some changes, and was the executive director for Perspectives, and then took an opportunity to be a vice president for Gulf Coast down here for WestCare in St. Pete. It's like St. Pete, Clearwater, and the Pasco area. So what I'm doing is what I've been doing for years, overseeing multiple programs throughout the counties, really just kind of keeping people doing what they do best, empowering the people that work here. And my job is vice president of the Gulf Coast region for WestCare, and we are a large, actually international, not-for-profit organization that started a long time ago in, I believe, Nevada. If I tell the story correct, it was either Nevada or California, but we're in 17 states. We're in a bunch of different areas outside the states. We're in the Pacific Islands. We're in Puerto Rico. We're in the Dominican, couple other areas. And here, this is where my home is, St. Petersburg, Florida, where I oversee 200-bed residential treatment program, 67-bed transitional living, 3 outpatient facilities, 1 in Pinellas, 1 in Newport Richey, and 1 in Dade City, and then also a place called a Turning Point, which is a shelter slash public inebriate center here in St. Petersburg. So you can come in there while you're intoxicated. It's not technically a detox, but we do a lot of work with the St. Petersburg Police Department, and folks can show up at a Turning Point and come in, and we can bring them in and they can stay for a couple days and get their act together, or we give them an opportunity to stick around for, a couple weeks or a couple months and then move on to bigger and better things. So really doing what I was doing when I first met you, just doing it in a different area. And still really, really glad to be connected, with you and Zero Hour.
I'm glad we're still connected too, Steve. And I was thinking back when you said when we first met, it was back in 2018 or into 2017. I was a young guy that had no grade, and I was trying to get Zero Hour Life Center off the ground, and we met in the conference room. You remember that? Me, you, and Dr. Don,
Sure.
and we sat down, and that's the first time we met, and then we just kept on talking. And then you started to, I remember I used to come in there and start picking your brain. How do you do this? What about this? And you always was there to mentor me, provide me good information. And so I'm forever grateful to you. Appreciate that.
So
And
it worked out. And, all I can tell you is you meet so many people throughout life, but especially also working in the business of treatment and recovery support. You meet people, and the fact is, I wouldn't necessarily put myself out there for everybody, because first of all, you need to kind of know a little bit about what they're about. And I never once felt that you and Mary and anybody connected to Zero Hour was pretentious or doing anything other than just trying to help people and just trying to provide them with services that they could begin to fall back on. And I've never seen anything different in the whole time that I've known Zero Hour. So yeah, I mean, the decision for me was easy, and I was still kind of new in Ocala, learning about Lutheran services and how they all worked. I had started making you know, developing a relationship with them, but the timing was good. The people that were in charge of the leadership at the centers, well, I was one of them, and then Don, they were on board with it. So they almost, they didn't have a chance, because we needed you guys,
yeah,
and came in and filled the need. And from what I understand, you're still feeling a need, and still navigating the waters of Marion County and other counties too. And that's what we have to do in this business, is you have to, learn to get along with everybody in the sandbox.
right,
And not everybody is always in it for the same reasons we are,
right,
and that's okay. That's okay, because there's always going to be people in need, and at the end of the day, those people are going to make those decisions based on who you and Zero Hour are, because they got to go with their gut, because we come from a place where we're not the most trusting people. You know,
right.
we'll second guess stuff until you show us that maybe have something legitimate to offer. So yeah, you guys were, I don't know, it was just right place, right time. So, and it seems like things have worked out well, and I've enjoyed being involved with everything you do, the recovery events and the red carpet event. And listen, but none of that is work for me. That's all fun, and I value the relationship.
I appreciate that. And congratulations on your 34 years, almost 35. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time in recovery. And this podcast is from struggle to strength. So I want to go back
34 years. Okay. Because when you were first starting in your recovery, wherever you found your recovery, would you think if you could look in the magic, if you look in a crystal ball, would you think 34 years you'd be who the person you are, what you're doing now? And so for the listeners out there that may be at that beginning, let's
Sure.
talk about that time when you were
Sure.
making that decision to get help and get your life on
Yeah,
track.
it was well, I started using when I was like 14, and I'm not going to tell you my whole story, but I started dibbling and dabbing when I was like 14 years old. I grew up in a neighborhood with a bunch of people that it was all really, we all did it. You
Right.
know, there was just, something different about some of us. But I lived in Philadelphia. I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, went to Washington High School, and kind of, the quick progression is it went from, marijuana and pills to powder and other things. And, I guess whenever, crack cocaine and freebasing was out, once I got involved with that, I guess that was like the 80s. I mean, that was like nothing I had ever experienced in my life. That took me to a place that a lot of people know about, Kensington and Allegheny in Philadelphia. A lot of people have seen that on videos and documentaries and things like that. That was where my addiction took me. Somebody had the nerve to introduce me to Kensington and Allegheny towards the end of my addiction, and I would hop on the L from Northeast Philadelphia and go down there and be wandering the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was bad. It was really
Mhm.
bad. I was a new father. I had a son that was 2 years old. My son Steve, he was, a little less than 2 years old. I was involved with somebody else who used. I worked in the restaurant business. I always could keep a job,
Mhm.
but yeah, that the addiction thing, and for me being the way I was, I just and I've had more time to think about it then, and as you know, as your addiction gets deeper and darker, some of the other stuff starts to happen too, mental health issues, and you start having like really unnatural thoughts about wanting to end your life and things like that. And that was kind of how it started for me as far as getting into recovery, Rob, is I went through treatment in a 9-month therapeutic community in Northeast Philadelphia. I stayed the whole 9 months. I had never been in treatment before. But what I did was I got involved with Narcotics Anonymous. They used to come up on Friday nights and chair a meeting at the program. And something struck a chord for me so that when I started getting my passes, I started going to meetings. And when I started getting more passes, I started going to more meetings. And then I met some people in the rooms. Then I got out of treatment, but I was really involved with, by that time, the end of 9 months, I was really plugged into Narcotics Anonymous. So I was playing in a recovering softball league. I was going to meetings 2 and 3 times a day. Um, but I had to make some changes. And
Mhm.
when I left treatment, I went back to my son's mother. It wasn't really a good situation. She didn't get clean, I did. And I thought I was going to be okay. So I had to make some changes. I went to live with my mother for a while. And I tried going back to work after I got out of treatment, but I went back to like sales and telemarketing and stuff like that. And it wasn't something that really set well with me and my insides. So I left that and I just kind of like poked around for a while. I wasn't really sure. And I took a job in Kensington and Allegheny, of all places. I got a job doing
Right.
patient counseling at Kensington and Allegheny for $7.50 an hour. There was a guy that owned a place down there that had like 10 recovery houses, an outpatient counseling center. And these guys basically, brought me in and said, here's a stack of files. These are your clients. You need to see them X amount of times a week. There's going to be some groups you're going to need. And you know what? I was like, it all happened so quickly, but I found myself like standing in groups with them, like in the morning and like talking to them, like how people had just gotten done talking to me. And it was like beyond my wildest dreams. So to be given that opportunity, I don't know. I just never really thought about anything after that, but I always kept my recovery first.
Mhm.
I knew that it was important, dealing with other people's stuff all the time and hearing about their issues, especially working in Kensington and Allegheny. I was
Right.
right, they talk about people, places, and things. I was right, literally, my office was a block away from K&A. I could have walked any way, and I could have really been in a jackpot situation, but that's how it all started. Went to work for them, did that for 6 months or a year, then got a job working for a company called Gadenzia, worked for them for a while. I think I left them, went to work at a hospital for a while. And keep in mind, this whole time, you didn't need certificates, you didn't need degrees, you
Hmm.
just needed somebody who believed in you.
Yeah.
And that was all good. There was a lot of folks in recovery starting to work in the field. But that's kind of how it started for me. And listen, when I got out of high school, the last thing I ever thought about was going back to school. I put that
Right.
off as long as I could. But went back, worked for this company, Gadenzia, and stayed there for a long time. I was actually there for about 16, 17 years. And during that time, I went back to school, went to community college, got my master's degree from Lincoln, got remarried, met somebody in the program, thought it was a great idea. It was not. She was in recovery. I was in recovery. Before
Right.
I knew it, she was using, and I was like, wait a second, this wasn't part of the script. So
Right.
then I was really miserable. And, when you talk about struggles, I thought that was kind of like, that was the way to do it. Okay, well, find somebody in recovery. That's perfect. It's going to be great. Well,
Hmm.
there's no guarantee for it. So that's why I tell people today, like, if you think that you're going to hook up with somebody in the program and you think that that's going to be your ticket, first of all, you better keep your shit separate. You better
Right.
keep the program separate and not intermingle, and there's no guarantee that you're going to stay clean or that they're going to stay clean. So at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. And that was just there was a lot of learning experiences that went along. Along came my second child.
Hmm.
Um, I wound up divorcing, his mother because she was using and it was just not a good situation. But for Steve, who my oldest son and my youngest son, I had to be like a weekend dad or like, we did this like shared visitation, but I knew that I wanted to be in their lives. I didn't want to be like a removed father. I
Right.
just it wasn't happening where we could be together. So, and today they're both in my lives. They're great kids. Probably my biggest accomplishments, and it's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah. And thank you. And when did you realize that you hit your strength moment? Because it's from struggle to strength. When did in that? Because I had this first time I ever heard her Steve's story, y'all. So it's very touching to me. When did you realize along your journey that, man, I'm proud of myself. I did this. Man, I stuck it out. I'm at that strength moment. And when did it really hit you? That, wow, man, I can do this.
I think I think that started for me early on. I mean, I think honestly, for me, considering I was going through that 9-month treatment program and I saw guys going AWOL from there all the time, leaving, giving up on the process. And I remember like when they would leave, thinking to myself, like, for every person that would leave, I would get stronger,
Right.
because I'm not leaving.
Mhm.
And what made them different than me? I guess, I don't know, maybe, well, for me, I just knew that I didn't want to live the way I was living anymore. So that's what I knew. I
Mhm.
wasn't going to go back to that anymore. And I didn't see myself going in and out of a program 2, 3, 5, 10 times. I mean, I was in treatment. At the time I was in treatment, I was 28 years old or so. And there was guys in treatment that were 50 and 60 and talking about getting arrested and all that kind of stuff. So for me, the I guess the point where the light went off was just when I realized that it was really completely up to me what was going to happen. Like it wasn't up to anybody else. Um, I kept, I kept a higher power as part of my recovery the whole time. Not religious, but just From the time that I went through treatment, fell back on that a lot. So I think it started for me early on, but I think as I started to get like, like when I had a year clean, and then when I had 5 years clean, and then when I had 10 years clean, and the whole time I was building my recovery capital. And, I think it's important that I talk about recovery capital because I was doing things like becoming more employable and showing that I could save money, uh, keep food in my refrigerator,
Yeah. Hmm.
not have to lie to people about
Right.
all kinds of stuff, be a good son, be a good dad,
Hmm.
and feel okay about that and not feel ashamed.
Right.
I don't know, like I did a lot of work on myself and I still, at different times, just have to kind of go through some self-talk and do some stuff for myself. But I think it was kind of like an ongoing thing for me, Rob. And I think honestly, for me, when I got out of treatment and realized that what I had done, I was proud of myself because I had never done anything like that. I mean, I had just, I was a piece of crap for a long time. And I just realized, and there was people that I met in the rooms, there were people that I
Hmm.
met in the meetings and people that I became associated with, and then, working in the field, working with people in recovery, and also people that weren't in recovery that just were college educated, who were smart, and starting to see that well, like I can have a place in this world and I actually like belong and I don't have to feel like less than because I did that for a long time. I mean, we all do it, and it's very easy to fall back in that, like for if you should you stumble and relapse or anything like that. And my message to people like that would be you have to use that as a learning experience. It doesn't have to be a bottomless pit that you go into and never get out. But you need to put in the work, to get out of that hole. And you got to put in the work. No
Hmm.
one's really going to pull you out of the hole. There's going to be people like from Zero Hour, people from WestCare, the other places that I've been in contact with. So, but you have to put in the work on yourself. And there's so many resources out there today, and it's not, like 34 years ago,
Right.
it wasn't, many paths to recovery. It was you go to AA, you go to NA,
Right.
you get a book, you get a
Hmm.
sponsor, and you this is the way you do it because it's the only way that works. Now,
Right.
it's okay if you're on medicine, it's okay if you, I don't know, God forbid you don't go to meetings. Oh my goodness,
Right.
you're involved with peer support and recovery community organizations and things like that. Like it's wild,
Yeah.
And the fact is, it all works. It all
Right.
depends on what works for you. And I am not taking away from things like 12-step meetings or anything because they're here to stay and they'll always be here to stay. But what at some point I started to realize like everything is not for everybody. You
Hmm.
want to go to church, you want to go to the mosque, you
Yeah.
want to go hang out at Zero Hour, you want to play music, you just don't want to use, that's cool, but do something to like, fill your void. So,
Right.
that's probably a way longer of an answer, but
No, you're spot
you're not going to
on.
get a shorter. Listen, if the 34 years, you got to listen to me pontificate about how how I did it. So,
Look, man, and like I said, it's an honor to sit here under 34 years of recovery. And no, I just want to say, man, this podcast is about for struggle to strength, man. And you said something that really hit me. And you said people believed in you. And I remember when I was struggling, when I was going through something, man, you believed in me. You believed in me. You called me. You believed in me. You gave me great insight that made me understand, man, I can get back up. I can find the strength to keep doing the things that I'm doing. I really appreciate that about you, Steve. And you know, having 34 years, man, that's really one of the great. I don't want to speak for yourself, but is it one of your greatest milestones, or is it one of your greatest accomplishments? Having 34 years, because a lot has birthed out of your recovery. And my other follow-up question to that, you know, going having 34 years in recovery, we'll be sitting here lying saying that you ain't go through no adversity through those 34 years. How did you overcome adversity in your 34 years in recovery and not go back to use and pick up, or how they say, how'd you handle life on life terms?
Um, I fell back on what worked for me in the very beginning. When things really, got difficult, I fell back on people that I knew were always there for me, whether it was my family or whether it were people in the recovery or whether it was, a higher power. I just, I was, and yes, you're right. There was adversity, financially, employment wise, physical. There's, been some, physical things that have happened over the years, and you're like, oh my God, like, yeah, I've been clean for 4 years, but I'm also 62 years old now. So like, I can't live like I did when I was 27.
Right.
So, doing things that I genuinely appreciate, like, being able to grab my golf clubs and go on the golf course, when things are really, raggedy, or, getting with my sons and, we just went out and went on a fishing trip this weekend and just listen, even if we don't, even if you don't catch any fish, just to be out there and like take the time to like take a breath of the ocean air
Yeah.
and realize what you have around you. But so is the 34 years a milestone? For me, after a while, it kind of a little bit, it's kind of like a number, like my age. But I also know in the back of my mind, like, that's like my badge of courage. Like, I worked really fucking hard to get what I got.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know, and you've known me for a long time, so, you know, being able to get emotional in a room full of people, and
Yeah.
sometimes, they're like, oh my God, where's this coming from? And where it's coming from is my heart,
Yeah.
because we hurt for a long time. We
Right.
hurt and we push it down and we try and forget about it. And I think what you get now is just like all this stuff that's just kind of like um, at the surface for me, and it stays at the surface.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. And it's
Mhm.
just who I am, like,
Yeah.
so whether I'm, now I haven't really blubbered like this, in front of a lot of my, my new coworkers here at WestCare, but it won't take long before they see something like that. But no, I mean, I think the way I overcome adversity is just by realizing that that other way of life
Hmm.
is truly frightening for me.
Yeah.
Like being so, feeling alone, feeling like you want to take your life, feel like you're nothing. I mean, like, that's not that far, like, that doesn't have to be that far away from me if I just make a couple bad decisions,
Right.
you know? Um, but I really love what I do. I love life. I love being able to go home and, sit out on my porch and enjoy my granddaughter and my wife. And, I love coming to my job. I mean, You know, I've told the people here at WestCare, like, I feel like I found my home, like, I couldn't be more grateful for where I'm at, so. You know, just the adversity part, you know, the other thing is, I got it made because I have the ability, I can like walk out my office and walk around the corner, and I can be in a room with, you know, 50 or 150 individuals that are in groups and they're going through
Mhm.
stuff. And if I want to go in there and just kind of like listen or,
Right.
you know, drop a couple things, that I will. You know, like I walked in there before to get a couple pieces of paper, and the women were in a group and the counselor was doing something. I heard him. So as I was walking out, he was like saying, like, you know, what would you notice about this person? I was kind of walking out and I said, like, you know, nonverbal behavior, eye contact, stuff like that. And then, you
Mhm.
know, but it was just like, I could easily go in there and just be back in it, you know,
Right.
not just about, you know, and you know what it's like because you see the people all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, for us, I will never think this is anything less than a gift to be able to work, you know, in a situation where, you know, of course, yes, it pays the bills and, you know, there's money involved with it and all that kind of stuff, but I don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just need to feel good about where I'm at, who I'm connected with, what I'm doing. Um, and know that if I didn't lie to anybody and I didn't hurt anybody, like I'm ahead of the game. You know,
Hmm.
not everybody knew me when I was that other person that was
Right.
hanging out in Kensington and Allegheny and peeking out the curtains and stuff like that. Like you didn't want to know me then, I guarantee it, you know. And I'll never forget that because you know, that's a scary way to live. But yeah, so again, another kind of I guess long-winded question, but it has been 34 years, and I guess that's kind of how I look at it.
And man, is really um like I said, man, it's an honor to have you as our first guest for this podcast because you know, as I stated before, that when I was a young guy trying to do this work, man, it was you. I used to run home and like, man, Steve Blank is just clean. He just dressed like this, that, the third. You modeled it, man. Man, you modeled it really. And then too is I've been watching you for a while. And I don't say that I don't say it lightly, but I've been watching you for a while, man. And I watch how you handle adversity, overcome it. I've been there, through some of your adversity. I mean, you became even closer doing all that than through my adversity. You
Sure.
was there for me. We became even closer. And you know, going on the golf course, man, with you, man, and I don't even care about hitting the ball. It's just spending time with you, man, just talking, you know. And but man, it's so a grateful experience, man, to walk this journey with you, man. And I feel like I've known you before the centers, and we just reunited at the centers, and now to keep going. And usually, man, and when you meet people, and the thing about you were that you was a COO, but you didn't, but you could have just said, "Hey, I'm just, this is a new guy coming here trying to do some business with us or whatever." We kept in contact, we kept talking, and we kept getting to know each other, and so thank you for that. Thank you for that. Um, how has your past struggles? How have your past struggles? Have you used them to help others? What you've been through, have you used it to help others?
Well, in the beginning, for me, all I really had to pull on was kind of like my own experience. So a lot of times, I think when I was trying to help others, a lot of it was geared towards just kind of like my own personal experience. Over the years, what I've learned is that like everybody's struggles are different, but then again, they're not. So, but I shouldn't assume that what worked for me is necessarily going to work for you or somebody else. So what I would say is how it's helped me is just understanding that anything is possible. I don't care how bad it's been. I don't care where you've been. I don't care if you're new to recovery or if you've been through this 10 times. Like this might be your golden moment. So working with people's strengths is really important, understanding that everybody has strengths, especially when you're working with folks that don't necessarily believe they have strengths. So
Mhm.
able to identify them, let them know that they need to believe in themselves and that, you or I also believe in them because, this guy, Steve, Mr. Blank, he's talking to me like he's done this before. And then I'm like, well, I have done this before. And they're like, wait a second, you went through this? And I'm like, yeah. So over the years, I've learned that I don't need to disclose that as much.
Mhm.
I think me just learning to kind of associate with people and understand that everybody has their own kind of drum that they march to, and that maybe sometimes it could be useful if I share a little bit about who I am, and other times it doesn't even matter because
Right.
it's really about them and not about me. So that's important,
Yeah.
when you're going through this and you're working with people, yeah, you want to talk about, different, life events that maybe you've, dealt with, but what's most important is that they know that you're actually listening to them
Mhm.
and that you're not thinking about something else based on the answer that you give them, and they'll know. So, speaking from the heart and not from the head is really important.
Yeah. And this is a good man. This is a good podcast, a good dialogue because you're speaking from the heart. Now I'm about to hit you real good on this one, and so you might need to get you some tissue on this one.
Oh, Christ,
You might need to get you some tissue on
I'm
this,
good. I'm good. I got that all out, I promise.
Mr. Blake. If you could go back
Yeah.
to that guy that was back in Philly, young and on Kennesaw, just back there doing all that. If you can go back and talk to your younger self before addiction, what would you say? What would you say to that young Steve before you even did addiction, went through that path? What would you say to that guy?
Um, that's a good question. I'd say, um, don't forget what it feels like to feel good. So whether you're hanging out with your friends, playing ball, riding your bikes, laughing, don't forget what that feels like because you can have it like throughout your life. And you can make some decisions throughout your life that may kind of distance you from what all that really felt like. So don't forget what little things that you did that you really truly enjoyed. Um, how great that felt to be, out and not having to worry about, you know, you're being out and not worrying about, what time you have to be home because it's safe, and having good friends and, people to kind of surround yourself with. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just, what I would say is Um, wouldn't it be interesting if your life today kind of emulated how things were for you when you were little? And when I say that, so when I was growing up, I grew up in a neighborhood and we all played ball together. We hung out on this wall and everybody used to just kind of follow me around. We were all friends and everybody followed me around and I had like just everybody. Um, and it wasn't any big like head trip. It was just kind of like a thing. I was kind of like a role model.
Hmm.
And here I am.
Yeah, still a role model, still a leader. You know, and you had it when you were a little boy. You didn't know it. You still someone's role model. You're my role model, and you're still a leader, man. And like I said, man, I'm just an honor just to have you on here, just to talk with you, um, and just to let people see another. Let people see Steve Blank, the human being, and what you've been through, man. Because 34 years is a lot of great time, man. And um, I came in life on the last tail end of I don't know when, 7 years, about 20 something years of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, right now, man, what's one message that you will get to for someone that stumbled on this podcast, somebody that just, was scrolling through the socials and came up on this podcast? What a message would you want to get out to someone that's right now at the struggle and trying to get up there out of that struggle and trying to get to the strength side? What would you tell that person in the struggle right now?
I would say um, that it's so worth it to think about, if it seems uncomfortable for you to ask for help, if it seems um, not normal for you to reach out, for you to do something different than what you're used to doing right now. Um, you absolutely need to, it's absolutely worth it to come out of your comfort zone a little bit to not have to continue to go down the path that you're going, whether it's with drugs, whether it's with, mental health issues, with whatever. It's, it's all connected, and this isn't really just for people that, listen, I'm way more than just a recovering addict. I'm a dad, a granddad, a husband, a son, and um, so, what I would say is, please ask for help. Do not let yourself go any further down that hole than you need to. Sometimes we think it's just easier, or we do it because, asking for help is not the easiest thing to do. Saying, hey, I've got a problem, is not the easiest thing to do. Someone that's been clean and in recovery for a while and they're struggling and they mess up. It's not easy to say, I'm struggling and I'm messing up. Can I don't know what I need, but I need to do something differently. So, what I'd say is, don't give up the fight. And like today, with what's going on in the world as far as the whole substance use thing, Rob, with fentanyl and buying stuff on the streets. And, I was talking, I don't know, I posted something on LinkedIn the other day. It's the only social media that I'm on. And I just said, there's no such thing as recreational drug use anymore because
Mhm.
you can't go out and buy weed or anything off the streets and know that it's going to be safe. I mean, it could be your last hurrah. And it's awful. And I'm so grateful that I got myself together when I did. But I'm so I feel so much for people who are struggling now because the stuff that's out there now, like a grain of sand will take your life, will take your life, something as big as a grain of salt or something. So, don't give up the struggle, ask for help. Make sure you continue to surround yourself with people that are healthy, healthier than you are mentally. And if you're having trouble finding them, keep looking. Whether it's picking up the phone, whether it's going to a different meeting, because you can go to a meeting and you can come out of a meeting and say, I don't know about that. That was it. So, but man, what like life is good. Life is good, and we don't have to struggle. And there's power in numbers. So if you need to go to a place like Zero Hour and get connected with a bunch of people that are in recovery and recovery support, then that's what you should do. Just don't try and do it on your own, because if you try and do it on your own, you're in a shitload of trouble.
Right.
So
Yes.
I've just always kind of kept myself connected, whether it's, to people like you or other people that I've met, or my kids or my wife or my daughter or whoever. If I sense something in somebody that I feel is genuine, then I will just pursue it, because I just feed off the human connection.
Yeah.
So, and some people are better at being people than others,
Right.
but everybody deserves a chance. And I would be remiss, Rob, if I didn't say that, I know you said several times how honored you are, but I'm just really glad that we got to meet that when we did. You are the furthest thing from a coworker or a peer that I can think of. You're a friend, and I did for you this, and I've done, with you the same thing that that you have done with me, and I'm very proud of what Zero Hour has done, and where you guys are going. And you need to know that I still think about you and what you do often, because I want to be able to get you more plugged in with what's going on in Pasco and Pinellas counties, because it's all about connections. And if there's
Yeah.
people are doing good stuff, then bring them to the table.
Right.
There's always enough for people to eat.
Yeah.
So kudos to Zero Hour Life Center for you know hanging in there, working with organizations like Lutheran Services of Florida. They knew a good thing when they found one. They've stuck with you through thick and thin, and that's what those places are supposed to do. So Shelley and Dr. Caulfield and the team over there, they believe in you. I believe in you. But before all that, Rob, is you as a person, you as a husband, and Mary, and all the other stuff. You know, uh, I don't know. I'd like to think I'm going to be at WestCare till I retire, and I really feel like this is the place. But I just know what I don't want to do anymore.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of like how it is for me. But I'm super appreciative of the opportunity to be on here with whoever was responsible for kind of making this happen, and just look forward to more opportunities. Got the thing happening down in Pinellas with Senator Rouson soon, and we'll talk some more about that. But and I know that you got some other stuff coming up that I'm going to be involved with. So I'm just glad to be able to be on here and do this,
Yes.
because it don't feel like work to me.
No, it doesn't. It
So,
doesn't. And really, man, you hit a lot of great things talking to that person that's still struggling. What I would tell them, Steve, is don't give up. I'm with you. As long as you got breath in your lungs, you got a chance to do it. But you got to find some people that believe in you and pushes you and keep you going, and get around good people. Find that community. And first, just take that first step. Treatment is not bad. It's not the end of the world. Whatever that looks like for you, just anything is better than what you're doing now. If you're still struggling in addiction, anything's better. Anything healthy is better. And um, and I hope this dialogue between two people helps someone, touch someone. Um, I don't want anybody thinking just, oh, just another podcast. No, we're really just having a great conversation and just talking about, different things. In closing, where can listener find more information about WestCare, about anything you want, or some resources out there? Where can they go find out about WestCare or anything you got going on?
Well, Rob, it's funny you should ask. They can go to WestCare, www.westcare.com. And there's also several numbers that they could call. First and foremost, if they want to call anybody, they can call me. My number is 727-291-3017. So that's the difference between me and a lot of other people. There's not a lot of VPs that are always going to say, well, just call me.
All right.
But then again, they call me, I'm gonna just connect them with the people they need to get connected with. But yeah, 727-291-3017. They can also call 727-490-6767 or 727-502-0188. But www.westcare.com. We are the Gulf Coast region, and yeah, good stuff happening down here for sure.
Good, good. So look, y'all, we're coming to the end, and really, y'all, I want you to see that you too can be a VP. You too can get from the struggle and get to strength and be whatever you want to be. And just keep one foot forward. Thank you, Mr. Blank. Thank you, Steve, for coming on here. Thank you for being our first guest. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It was an honor to sit here with you for
I
an hour.
there should be like some kind of a gold plaque or something that should be somewhere at 0 hour for this, right? For you being.
I got you. I will order one for you.
All right, because I really need that gold plaque, No,
I
I
got you.
dug it, Rob, and anytime I can, do anything to help the cause or just get together, just call me, and I appreciate the opportunity, and good luck to 0 hour. Keep on doing good things, and you guys deserve only the best.
Thank you, man, and good luck, WestCare, man. If you need anything, I'm available for you. It's only, man, I'll clear my calendar for you. That's the respect I have for you as a friend and as, man, like I said, you're my mentor, man, and we got to hit them golf, man. We got to play 18 holes again.
I told my son I'm ready to. I'll come to Ocala if I need to play. I haven't played in a few weeks because I've been busy, but I've just been starting to get into the groove. I had a little procedure done on my hand. I feel like I'm almost ready for the tour.
All right, cool. Thank you, my man. Appreciate
All right,
you.
Rob. Thanks, man.